Felixstowe. Each week we're meeting people from the Felixstowe area and talk to them about their life in Felixstowe and the jobs that they do. My first guest is Peter Lyon, who is an ADI driving instructor. Welcome, Pete.
Thank you.
Pete, can I just ask you, ADI, what does that stand for, please?
Approved Driving Instructor.
Brilliant. Tell us a little about yourself. Are you a local person?
Yeah, I was born in Felixstowe, quite a long while ago now. Spent my younger days here, went to school, all the schools in Felixstowe. Once I left school, I started worked for various firms around the town. Ended up working as a driver, lorry driver for the old flour mill.
Right.
And what was known as rank Hovis.
Indeed.
Also done a little bit of bus driving, stuff like that. Once I'd been made redundant from the flour mill, I used the redundancy money to train to be a driving instructor. And here I am today.
So how many years do you say you've been doing it?
21. Just over 21 years.
Mm-hmm. And what made you want to become a driving instructor?
I think it's a worthwhile job really, because it gives you the opportunity to work with a wide variety of people, mainly the younger people, not all of them, because sometimes I've had people who have been in their senior years who have wanted to learn to drive as well. And it just gives you that buzz to know that you've helped them along the way to get a life skill. A skill which has enabled them to be able to drive until whenever they feel they don't want to drive anymore.
Sure.
And it just, you get that extra little buzz when they pass a test as well, because you know that you've really helped these people along.
And what special qualifications do you need to become a driving instructor?
It's quite a tough process that you have to go through to qualify to be a driving instructor. First of all, you have to apply to the registrar to go on the register.
Yep.
Once you've been accepted, you have to go through several checks, like I think they still call it the CRB check, which is a criminal records check to make sure that you're a reputable person. Once you've gone through there, then you can start your training. Obviously you need to go to a reasonably reputable training company to do that. You will then have to take 3 different exams. Your first exam will be your theory test, which is a lot harder than the standard theory test, what the normal learner drivers do. It lasts just over an hour. You have 100 questions to answer on that, and the pass rate is, or the pass rate you must get is around about 95% on that, so you really have to be quite knowledgeable. Once you pass that, you can then apply to take your part 2, which is your own driving test, which lasts roughly about an hour. They're looking for a very high standard of driving. If you fail that, you get 2 further attempts at that, and if you can't pass on the 3rd attempt, you have to wait 2 years and go right back to the beginning again if you want to, and then you can restart again. If you pass, you can then go on to your part 3, which is your instructional ability. Well, that's a really tough one, because you have a supervising examiner who role plays. And
he takes the part of the learner.
He takes the part of the learner.
So how long did it take you from the start of when you registered to when you actually passed the whole thing?
It took me about 12 months.
Right. Has the driving test changed since you first became a teacher? Now, obviously we're talking about the standard driving test there, aren't we? Not the driving test you had to pass.
Yeah, there's been quite a few changes. Not long after I started being a driving instructor, the theory test was brought in. That was done on paper in those days, where you sat down in a room and you put a little cross in the box. It's all done on computer.
Okay, so that was a yes or no answer, basically. I don't know if it still is, but
well, you get your options. I mean, you've got the multiple choice questions, so you just have to pick the right. I mean, a lot of people take pot luck, because you've got 1 in 3 chance if there's 3 questions getting it right. And that's what I think is why a lot of people are failing it these days. But then you've also got the hazard perception test, which was added on not too long after the theory came in. As far as the actual road test is concerned, they brought in the bay parking, so you have to reverse into a parking space. Also now they started doing the independent drive part of the driving test.
Independent drive, what do you think of that?
Well, during the test, the examiner will ask you to pull over and stop, and they'll say, I'd like you to just follow the signs towards Felixstowe for the next 10 minutes until they tell you any different. So rather than the examiner giving you directions of at the end of the road, turn left, turn third exit at the roundabout, etc., you just have to sit there and you follow the signs.
And you've got to work it out yourself.
You've got to work it out yourself.
Yeah, sure.
As far as I know, it's you couldn't really fail if you got the wrong directions on that, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to encourage people, rather than sitting there and listening to somebody to say turn left here, turn right there or whatever, is to work it out for themselves, like you just said, so that you can, while you're driving and you're dealing with all the traffic, you're still looking for the traffic signs and the road markings.
Once you're on your own, you're not going to have somebody sitting. Well, obviously, if you're on your own, you're not going to have anybody sitting there anyway. But once you're driving and passed your test,
that's right.
Yeah, they're
the main changes that what we've seen.
Is it harder to learn to drive these days?
I don't think it's actually any harder to learn to drive the car, because learning to drive is more than just the ability to be able to control the vehicle. It's really developing an understanding of traffic situations and reading the road ahead, situation awareness, basically. And that really is essential that people have that when they're learning to drive. I think what has made it a bit more difficult is we've got more complex road situations than we ever used to have. I remember when I first learned to drive around Felixstowe and Ipswich, everything was pretty much basically straightforward. You didn't have so many one-way systems and road markings and arrows telling you could go here, there and everywhere, and sort of multi-lanes, roundabouts and things like that. We didn't have all that, whereas today they have much more of that. And I think for the people living, around around this area, probably find it a little bit harder than it used to be. However, if those who live in big cities in London and that, they've always had that type of thing, so they've been probably used to it, but it's probably a little bit more difficult for people around here because of the traffic situations than it ever was.
DVSA, before you go further.
Driving and Vehicle Standards Agency.
Thank you.
They're the people who run the tests, control the tests. They done a survey a couple of years ago, I think, with all the people who passed the test on how many hours that they took.
And it worked out about an average, I think it was about 48 hours for boys and about 50 odd for girls.
Right.
But the DVSA will recommend that people take between 40 and 45 hours of professional tuition and as much private practice as they can possibly get.
What's the oldest person you've taught?
Actually taught?
Yeah.
I would say somewhere around in their 50s.
Oh, right.
Mid-50s.
What's the oldest person you know of that a fellow instructor has taught?
I did hear, and I think this happened before I started this job, and there was a teacher from Felixstowe, Mr. Orford, and I think he was 80.
Really?
And he was a maths teacher at Felixstowe Secondary Modern School.
Right.
And his wife used to drive him everywhere, and I think she passed away. And I did hear that he went and passed his driving test, and I think he was around about 80 years old when he done that.
That's wonderful.
But I've had people in my car who have been of that age as well, who have done refresher lessons. There's one elderly lady not far from where I live. Her husband died. He used to drive her everywhere, and she hadn't driven since the wartime when she used to drive ambulances. And she was stuck, got the car there, so she came with me, and she just had a few hours in my car just to get back into it again. She didn't want to drive out of Felixstowe, just want to go from Old Felixstowe down to town centre and back again, and that just gave her the confidence to do that.
Do you think that driver education should be taught in schools?
Definitely. I think that should be done as soon as possible, as soon as the children can get a brief understanding of what's going on, because it's not only about driving a car, they're pedestrians and they're on bicycles as well.
Indeed.
And I think it would be worthwhile if they had some sort of tuition in the school curriculum where they learnt about road signs and dangers of the road, just the basic things, so they get some sort of understanding.
Do you have to retake your tests, or whatever you like to call it, every so often?
No, we have to renew our registration,
our
ADI registration every 4 years.
Okay.
Then we have to do a CRB check in order to get that every 4 years. But then we have, they call it a standards check now. It used to be called a check test,
right?
But it's a standards check now. Whereas I'll get a letter from the supervisor and the examiner inviting me to attend at the test centre with a pupil.
Right.
And they will sit in the back while I do a lesson. So
Yep.
I'll meet them up at the test centre.
I see.
I'll give them a brief idea of what that pupil's done, what the standard they're at, and any problems that pupil might have.
Yep.
They will sit in the back while I conduct the lesson for an hour, roughly about an hour. At the end of that, I go into the office with the supervising examiner, and then they work out on their marking sheet how I've done.
Yep.
And you then get graded from that. It used to be grade 6 was the highest, 5, then 4. Get anything less than 4, then you go back to 2 months' time or 3 months' time to have another check test and so forth. But they've changed all that now to what they call a standards check, whereas it's the same type of thing, but it's a lot more. They'll give you a lot more feedback on what you're doing rather than just marking you down and giving you a grade.
Right.
And now what they've done, they've graded you an A. If you get the higher standard, if you're outstanding, you get an A grade. If you're acceptable, then you get a B grade. Anything less than a B, then you'll go back again and you'll see the supervising examiner within the next few months.
Right.
If you fail that, I think you get another opportunity,
Yep.
and then it only goes so far before you'll be struck off the registry if you can't make the grade.
3 strikes and you're out, as it were.
That's right.
Yeah.
So really, we have to keep our standards
Sure.
up, and quite rightly too.
Do you think all drivers, this good one, should have compulsory eye tests
Yep.
every 2 years?
Definitely, absolutely, because I think there's a lot of drivers out there whose eyesight has deteriorated, and if it's not on your driving licence that you need glasses, it doesn't matter how little you can see, you can still get away with it.
Yeah.
Because when you send off for your licence, you should declare if you wear glasses or have any eye problems. So therefore, for the rest of your driving career, if you like, you would need to wear those glasses, and if you didn't wear those glasses and you were involved in an accident, you'd be breaking the law.
Indeed.
But there's a lot of people whose eyesight, they haven't had an eye check for many, many years, and their eyesight has deteriorated and they can't see. People get cataracts, and they don't have anything done about it, but they're in the car driving, and they can't see. So what's wrong with having an eyesight check every 2 years?
Indeed.
I mean, opticians recommend you have your eyes checked every 2 years.
Yeah.
And every 1 year if you have certain problems with your eyes. But do they still have the where you stand, I can't remember how many yards or metres it is these days, from the car registration plate? They still have that test.
They do that at the beginning of the test.
That's right.
Yeah,
they still do
20
that.
metres.
20 metres.
20 metres. You have to read a number plate in good daylight at 20 metres. If you can't do that, then I think they give you 2 or 3 goes at that. And if you fail that, then they'll revoke your licence straight away, which is a good thing.
What's the best part of your job?
Best part of my job? Oh, well, when somebody passes the test.
Satisfaction.
Yeah, satisfaction. That gets a real good buzz. Then they bring a box of chocolates round to my house to say thank you. That's it.
Oh, brilliant.
So what advice would you give to anyone thinking of becoming a driving instructor?
Research and get the best training that you can,
Yep.
and be careful where you spend your money, because there's a lot of people out there who will be quite happy to take you on, and you might not get the best training. But if you research and get the best training, you know that there's a really good chance that you're going to pass. I think you've got to be the right type of person. You've got to expect that you're going to be working unsociable hours. You might not be a millionaire through working as that, but you're going to get a lot of satisfaction out of the job.
And you've got to have patience.
Yeah, you've got to have patience.
Yep.
And you just, you'll enjoy it if you do. So, like I said, the best advice is research and get the best training you can. If you get the best training, you'll enjoy it.
Brilliant. Anything else you want to say that perhaps I haven't covered?
I think we've covered most things.
Right. Thank you very much, Peter.
Okay.
All the very best to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter.